Today I'll be showing you how I turned my boring room into a haunted house for Halloween, all without breaking rent. First, let's start with my inspiration. I wanted to create a dollhouse vibe, but not just any dollhouse. I wanted cobwebs everywhere. So I got to work making this place look like the setting of a slasher film. I hung up some fake cobwebs and even put one in my closet. I got these really cool LED lights that change colors and have different effects, so I hung those up as well. I also got some really cool flickering light bulbs, but those ended up being a little too over the top. So I took them down. Next, I turned my bed frame into a coffin. I just put a fitted sheet on it and tucked it in on all four sides. And then I placed an LED strip under the bed skirt to give it a spooky glow. I also got some faux spider webs, and I'm gonna put those up around my room. And finally, I added some props like this creepy doll and some antique medical equipment that I found on Amazon. I think my favorite part of the whole room is the floor. I went to Home Depot and I bought some 1x2 boards and I cut them to the exact length of my rug. Then I nailed them to the wall, and now I have the perfect place to hang up more cobwebs. I also put some up on the ceiling. I'm gonna put this really cool spiderweb chandelier in the middle of my room. It has these 8 arms that go in all different directions, and then there's a little spider in the middle. I think it looks so good. And now we're on to the fun part, decorating the walls. I hung up some really cool posters I found on Amazon, and I also printed out some old medical advertisements and recipes. I framed them and hung them on the walls as well. I also got some cool skeleton hands that I put on the floor and on my bed. And finally, I put up my very last piece of decor, this huge painting I found on Amazon. It's a recreation of The Shining, and it says, "Here's Johnny." I love how it turned out. The next step was to make my room feel lived in. So I brought out all my furniture, and I made my bed with some vintage Halloween sheets I found on eBay. I also put some old books and records on my shelves. I think it's really important when you're decorating a haunted house to make your audience feel like they're actually in a haunted house. So I used a lot of sensory details to do this. For example, I put some fake cobwebs everywhere, and I even put some in my closet. I also got some really cool LED lights that change colors and have different effects. So I hung those up around my room as well. A few months ago, my landlord gave me the green light to make over the interior of my apartment, and I wanted to go all out. So I decided to build a haunted house from the inside out. You enter through the front door and are immediately greeted with cobwebs everywhere. Then you walk a few steps and the floorboards beneath you begin to creak. As you take another step, more cobwebs brush against your face. Then out of the corner of your eye, you see something crawling. And when you turn the light on, it disappears. This was by far the most fun project I've done yet, and I can't wait to show it to you. I found this dollhouse at an antique store for $150. It was love at first sight because not only was it a decent size, but it also had so much character. Here are some before and after shots of me removing the wallpaper and repainting everything white. I then took measurements of the walls and made some 1-to-1 scale drawings so I could visualize where the dollhouse would go and how much material I would need to buy. Next, I bought some supplies to bring my vision to life. I purchased these LED stick-on lights to give the illusion that the windows were glowing from the inside. I got some clear sticky tack to hold up the cobwebs. I got some black caulk to seal off the gaps in between the windows and doors. I got some glow-in-the-dark paint for the stairs. And last but not least, I bought some faux spider webs. The day has finally come where I get to put everything together. Starting from the ceiling, I put up the cobwebs. Then I put up the first layer of fake spider webs. Next, I put up the second layer of fake spider webs. Then I put up the third and final layer of fake spider webs. Then I put up the LED lights. And here's a quick before and after. Next, I started working on the floorboards. I cut down some scrap wood to make the center panel. Then I glued and nailed everything together. And here's a quick before and after. Next, I sealed off the gaps in between the windows and doors with black caulk. Then I painted the trim and the window sills black. Next, I gave the stairs a fresh coat of glow in the dark paint. Then I put up the remaining cobwebs. And here's a quick before and after. And now for the fun part, decorating the dollhouse. I went to a local Halloween store and bought a bunch of creepy props like skeletons, skulls, and tombstones. Then I arranged everything in a way that I liked. Next, I gave the floor a makeover. I used this old trunk as a coffee table. I got these 12-inch square tiles and arranged them in a brick pattern. Then I glued them down. And here's a quick before and after. Next, I put together this little desk nook. I got some old books and arranged them on the desk. Then I put a lamp on top of the desk. Next, I put up this vintage mirror. Then I put up the paintings. Next, I put up the curtains. And here's a quick before and after. Next, I put up the canopy above the bed. Then I put up the headboard. Next, I put up the bedding. And here's a quick before and after. And last but not least, I put up the finishing touches. I put out a few more skeletons and skulls. I put out some more tombstones. Then I put out some cobwebs and black roses. Subscribe if you're new and like the video if you want to see more. Until next time, see you later.